frankly shocked by the Arizona Senate poll within this poll and how Ruben Gallego is just running away beyond the margin of error with the Arizona Senate race. And yes, it's Carrie Lake he's up against. She's a drag on the ticket in Arizona for sure.
But it's like 15 points.
It's a big lead in a place where it wasn't supposed to be that huge. So she definitely has momentum. Is she going to be able to maintain the enthusiasm, the excitement going into September post-debate? That's what remains to be seen, how the next 2 months are going to play out and whether this is a honeymoon or it's for real.
And Harris and Walz will have their first sit-down interview later tonight. Sam Stein, let's get you in on these polls here. I mean, it's significant. You know, the polls are a snapshot. We know that. But this shows where this race is at this moment, and the wind is at Harris's back. What do you think about the state of play in those Sunbelt states? States that just a few weeks ago, Donald Trump had thought he had put away. Remember at the sidelines of the Republican National Convention, I know you were there in Milwaukee, Trump aides telling reporters, we don't even have to advertise or campaign in North Carolina. Right. That state is in the bag. Now, his lead's 1 point.
Well, I'll never get over that dig you made about me getting through security. That will stick with me for my entire life, frankly. I
Pass it on to your kids.
They'll remember it too. They're watching, I'm sure. I think to your point, look, we all know that the race has been reset, but the way in which it's reset, I think, matters here. And by that, I mean, when you have 3 states that are critical to the election, it narrows the field for Trump. It allows him to just focus on those battleground states in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. When you have 7 states now in contention, it becomes a resource battle. Much more so. And in this case, it's not just that Harris has the momentum, it's that she's raising tons of more money. When you're raising $500 million in a month, right, you can then afford to do ad blitzes and fund on-the-ground operations in more of these states. You can do turnout and persuasion in more of these states. And now you're stretching Trump's resources even further. And so, yes, there's more maps. But in addition to, more pathway to 270. But in addition to the pathways to 270, you also benefit from the fact that you have a lot more money and can afford to play in all those states. And Trump now has to be on the defensive. I mean, not only do they not want to spend in Arizona, Georgia, they don't want to spend in North Carolina. And they're going to have to do that now. Doesn't mean Harris is going to win those states, but it does make it more likely for her to pick off enough states to get to 270 now.
Yeah, and then Harris, of course, spending time in Georgia on a bus tour and then a rally right now. So here's how Fox News chief political anchor Bret Baier reacted to his own network's polling yesterday, with a close eye, indeed, on one of those key swing states.
Georgia remains. It was the closest contest in 2020, decided by less than 1/4 of a percentage point in favor of President Biden. Our recent polling showed the widest gap, 6 points, for former President Trump over President Biden. But now that has closed. Harris has a 2-point lead in our latest poll. It's expected to be a close race. That's obviously within the margin of error, but both candidates are spending a lot of time in Georgia, and if that lead holds, she wins Georgia, she wins the presidency of the United States.
The importance of Georgia on display right now. The Trump-Vance campaign, as you might imagine, quickly issued a memo calling the polling atrocious, saying, we report, you decide. Fox's polling has an awful track record. And speaking of Georgia, Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz are on a campaign bus tour of southern, typically redder counties in that state. The Democratic ticket was greeted yesterday on an airport tarmac by students from Savannah State University, Georgia's oldest HBCU. The tour then kicked off with a series of stops focused on education. Harris and Walz then traveled south to Hinesville, Georgia, where they visited a local high school and spoke to members of the faculty and the student marching band.
You kind of embody this idea, and the Vice President talks a lot about it. Each of our individual talents, what we can contribute, but something bigger than ourselves when you get together. Your single instrument alone is an amazing thing, but as part of this band, it becomes really amazing. I'm just grateful that you'd have us here. I'm grateful to be part of a team with a really great head coach here in your next President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Sometimes you hit the note, sometimes you don't. Right? But all that practice makes for beautiful music. And that is a metaphor, that is symbolic for everything that you all will do in your lives. Which is you're going to show what a winning team looks like. You're going to show what it means to put yourself out on the field, to put yourself in front of people, to have the confidence to do it. Sometimes you're going to hit the step right. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're going to win the game. Sometimes you may not. But you know, you never let any circumstance knock you down or slow you down. You just keep going at it.
Harris aides have long said she loves a bus tour, and the vice president will continue her tour of Georgia today, while Walz will head on to campaign events in North Carolina. Harris will end the tour with a rally in Savannah later on today, and the importance of Georgia also on display by Donald Trump's efforts to patch things up with Republican Governor Brian Kemp, popular governor with whom Trump has been feuding for years. Joining us now, editor-at-large at the 19th, Erin Haynes. She's also an MSNBC political contributor and an expert on all things Georgia. So, Erin, tell us about the state of play there and what we're seeing from this push by Harris and her running mate to move into sort of these redder counties. And it's not about winning those counties, right? It's about closing the margin of defeat, but closing the gap so therefore you can win it in Atlanta, in the suburbs of Atlanta. And she's speaking to voters, white and black, who don't always think about voting for Democrats.
Right, and who also don't always get to see a Democrat, especially in that part of the state. Listen, there are 159 counties in Georgia, and Atlanta is only in one of them. Typically, Democrats do tend to focus in and around Atlanta and those surrounding counties, and Republicans are the ones that tend to go to the rest of the state. Republicans avoid Atlanta. Democrats kind of avoid the rest of the state. But Harris is showing that she is willing to work for those votes, like you said, not necessarily to win those red counties, but certainly to kind of eat away at the margins. Remember, that's the kind of map that Stacey Abrams and other grassroots groups like Black Voters Matter and others really, worked to build the coalition that elected Senator Raphael Warnock and Senator John Ossoff in 2020, and obviously President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris turning Georgia blue in that year, something that Vice President Harris is obviously hoping to repeat. Listen, I mean, you have people in that part of the state that are concerned about affordability, about opportunity, and so to hear, Coach Walz and Vice President Harris really down there trying to rally them, bringing some of that joy also in the form of encouragement to an area that they know, a lot of people are still struggling, kind of trying to strike that balance, I think was something really important in a part of the country that shows kind of where they are coming out of this convention, focused on the middle class and focused on opportunity for folks like the people in the Savannah area these 2 days.
Erin, it's Ali Vitale. I'm glad that you're with us because we started our 5 a.m. hour with our friend and a colleague of yours, Jen Gerson, talking about the messaging around freedom to try to appeal to some moderate white women that might not typically vote Democrat. Can you talk about the impact of that kind of a message around freedom, around protecting democracy, around reproductive health care that could transcend racial lines among women voters who are going to be so crucial in this election, not just in Georgia, but in battleground states across the country?
Such a great point, and thank you so much for highlighting Jen's story, because white women are the largest voting bloc in the country. I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that. And so a message that appeals to them, particularly in a year where we already knew at the 19th that abortion was going to be on the ballot. Harris has been the Democrats' strongest surrogate on the issue of abortion, tying it to freedom and rights and really just this question of what makes a healthy democracy. That's something that could resonate with a lot of these conservative suburban white women who live in counties that are outside of Atlanta. And so that, could be part of the winning formula that puts Georgia in play. Another thing that I would also note, Republican Governor Brian Kemp is somebody who is very popular with conservative suburban white women. And so I think that probably also has a lot to do with why former President Trump decided that he wanted to make up with Governor Kemp at this time, because the way that he's been speaking about Governor Kemp is something that definitely rubbed a lot of those conservative Georgia women the wrong way.
Kemp and his wife even. We'll see if Trump can maintain. That's right. That's right. And we'll see if Trump can maintain this facade of a truce there with the governor with whom he has been so angry for so long. Erin, we want to get to your most recent piece in the 19th. It has this title: "Nothing about this year is normal. it could give Harris a chance at history. And you write in part this. In many ways, the story of Harris's unlikely journey is one not just of 107 days, but of the last 4 years, and about how far the candidate and the country have come. Much of that evolution happened behind the scenes, when the media paid less attention to a role that has been traditionally unimportant. But with a new opportunity to introduce herself after a national reckoning on race, with women continuing to break barriers across society, could voters choose Harris to break what Clinton calls the highest, hardest glass ceiling? Harris is making the case for why she is ready to be president. Soon the country will decide whether they believe she is ready. So, Aaron, tell us a little bit more about this, because it has been so striking that at least to this point in the campaign, Harris and her team are not dwelling on the potential history that could be made here. They're not spending a lot of time on her race or gender. Of course, it's there, it's obvious, but it's not at the forefront of the messaging like it was in 2016 for Hillary Clinton. But the opportunity is there all the same. Talk to us about how you see it resonating.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're making a very good point, Jonathan. I was in Chicago at the Democratic National Convention last week, and I think that we did see that this is her potential to make history is not something that was really explicit. It was really kind of more implicit, something that the vice president herself is not really, pointing out or highlighting. Specifically, some of her surrogates and others who spoke at the convention certainly kind of did that for her. But yes, I mean, the reality is that we are in a very different place than we were just over a month ago in this presidential race, and we could be in a very different place as a nation than we've been in more than 230 years. And as I said in my column, just even the way that this came together, we're really looking at a moment that kind of had to happen this way. It was Shirley Chisholm who ran for president, first woman to run for president in 1972, who predicted that the path to the presidency for a woman could be through the vice presidency. And so Harris has been the understudy in this role for nearly 4 years. That's one of the factors that contributed to this. The way that President Biden kind of exited the race and endorsed her really kind of set her up to shore up these delegates and really quickly clear the field so she doesn't have this kind of traditional primary process that produces a nominee over 18 months. Look, we have a political climate that's very different. And then there's like this accelerated calendar that kind of gives you this immediate sense of urgency and sense of drama. Weeks ahead of schedule, you've got voters that are really interested and excited about this race, curious about Harris, curious about her candidacy, which is one of the reasons why this interview could be impactful tonight. People wanting to know more about her, and people who may be excited about voting for her who were not excited about either of their choices for president just a few weeks ago. So, there are advantages and disadvantages to that timeline, but, including Hillary Clinton, some of the folks that I talked to really said that this could be what makes a difference in November, and how Harris could really be the woman that makes history.
Yeah, there's a growing belief that the accelerated timetable is to Harris's benefit. And we should note, early voting begins in a few states in just a couple of weeks. Ballots are going to be cast before we know it. Editor-at-large at the 19th and MSNBC political contributor Aaron Haynes. Aaron, thank you for joining us, and it's an important piece. People should check it out.
We have lots more to get to this hour. Morning Joe Weekend continues after a short break.
Here's to getting better with age.
Cheers to beating these two every Thursday.
Help fuel today with Boost High Protein. Complete nutrition you need and the flavor you love. So here's to now. Now available Boost Max.
And Doug.
Limu, someone needs to customize and save hundreds on car insurance with Liberty Mutual. Let's fly. Chief?
Doug.
Oh, wow. I thought you were right behind me.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Psst, psst.
With Flonase, allergies don't have to be scary. Spraying Flonase daily gives you long-lasting, non-drowsy relief. Psst, psst. Flonase, all good.
Did you know Sling has all the election coverage for the best price?
Election coverage for the best price?
Election coverage for the best price?
The best price?
Get election coverage for $40 a month. Sling lets you do that.
Lumify?
It's kind of amazing. Wow. Lumify eye drops dramatically reduce redness.
In 1 minute.
And look at the difference. My eyes look brighter and whiter for up to 8 hours. Lumify really works. See for yourself.
Lumify. I knew that something was different. I knew it, I called it, and look what I found today.
It's Blue Chew.
Blue Chew.
Blue Chew?
Blue Chew.
Blue Chew. Blue Chew. Blue Chew.
The Holy Grail. This is the secret. If you don't know, now you know. You can get it on a subscription model, so men can get delivered every month. And for the ladies, let your man know, and you're welcome in advance.
I'm lucky. I found the one thing that I was put on this earth to do. And every day, as I inch one step closer to my vision, it reminds me that making it in life is all about the making.
At Ram, our calling is to build trucks. So when you find your calling, nothing can stop you from answering it.
Right now, during the Ram Labor Day sales event, get $3,000 cash allowance plus no monthly payments for 90 days on the purchase of most 2025 Ram 1500 trucks.
The best feeling is when we take off our bras. It's not true. So you take off your bra, but then you feel the weight. What's the solution? Honey Love bras are the most comfortable bras I've ever worn. No underwire, so there's never any digging into your skin. There is some boning on the sides, which make it super comfortable and supportive. And one of my favorite parts, no back fat, never. The back straps are so wide and so seamless. I could work out, I could run, I could dance, I could do anything. It's fun, it's beautiful, it's supportive.
Shop the Labor Day sale. Offer ends September 2nd.
With Chime, I have access to more fee-free ATMs than the top 3 national banks combined. That's over 50,000 fee-free ATMs. And I can add cash at over 8,000 Walgreens with no fee. That's why I Chime. Join Chime, the #1 most loved banking app.
Why do couples choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
I need it a little cool.
And I need it a lot of cool.
We're both cool like that.
Sleep Number does that. Actively cools and warms on each side. The Queen Sleep Number C2 smart bed is only $9.99. Plus, get free delivery when you add any base.
The project of genuine multiracial democracy, it's young, it's really young. And at each point when that vision of America faced its challenge, that vision has been able to win out. And this is the moment where that choice is starker than it's ever been about what kind of nation we're going to be. And we're going to shape more this year than at any other moment in my life.
Welcome back to Morning Joe Weekend. Let's pick back up on the conversation we were just having before the break.
We're learning new details this morning about the alleged altercation at Arlington National Cemetery this week that involved Donald Trump's campaign. At first, Trump's team disputed aspects of initial reporting by NPR. They broke the story. But Arlington National Cemetery later put out a statement confirming that there had been an incident and that a report was filed with military police. The former president had been invited to the cemetery by the family of a Marine killed 3 years ago during the bombing at Abbey Gate outside Kabul airport in Afghanistan. That family granted Trump's team permission to film and take photographs at the Marine's gravesite. 3 U.S. military officials tell the New York Times that some members of the Trump campaign confronted and eventually pushed past a cemetery official when she tried to stop them from taking photos in Section 60. Where campaign photography is strictly prohibited. The military officials told the Times the cemetery worker feared that pursuing the matter with authorities could subject her to retaliation from Trump supporters. So at least Donald Trump was invited to go to the cemetery. But there's a difference there between a family's wishes and then using that for campaign propaganda. We have seen the video. They put it out on TikTok. They put it out on social media. Trump there at the gravesite. We've seen pictures of him right here giving thumbs up. And this is something that has sparked a lot of anger from military families, from veterans groups, from Gold Star families who say that Arlington National Cemetery, arguably the most sacred place in our nation, was used as a campaign prop.
And they're saying that because they were there. They were certainly, during a campaign, what was a sacred moment. It was the anniversary of a horrific attack that took 13 members of the U.S. military, mostly Marines. And so, yes, some of those families had wanted them to come, but it matters in how it is actually presented and what the end result is. And it can't look like a campaign event. And the optics ended up being something that his base could seize onto as saying Donald Trump was standing with the fallen, and the other side could say, look at the crassness, look at what happened here. What really is the story? I still want to hear more about the fallout as to what actually happened, because there are just so many disputed accounts over what was the incident at hand.
And the Trump team is trying to highlight that explosion in Afghanistan, saying it's a real failure of the Biden administration. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact. Let's think about how Donald Trump talks about veterans, the military officers, calling them suckers and losers, belittling their service, according to his own chief of staff, and even just recently downplaying the Medal of Honor, suggesting that, well, maybe you don't, I'm paraphrasing, you don't want to win that one because you could end up injured or dead.
Well, and also this was his Afghanistan policy. He set the groundwork for the drawdown and the withdrawal, and maybe he would have handled it differently. Who knows? But he set this in order. The wheels were turning. His team was negotiating the terms. And so Donald Trump does own this Afghanistan policy, too, although Biden was at the time the figurehead of the incompetence at the moment and the horror of that scene at Kabul airport.
Yeah, Biden certainly wanted the Afghanistan withdrawal, but you're right. It was Trump who started the process in motion. Meanwhile, Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance escalated his attacks against Vice President Harris yesterday to a new level, blasting the Democratic presidential nominee over that U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan 3 years ago.
To have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Vance made those remarks during a campaign stop in Erie, Pennsylvania, while defending his team from accusations of improper behavior at Arlington National Cemetery. Later, Vance spoke to reporters during a stop in Wisconsin and doubled down on his initial comments.
Look, sometimes I get frustrated and sometimes I get pissed off, and I think Kamala Harris' failure of leadership at Abbey Gate is something to get frustrated and angry about.
So, Sam, that's J.D. Vance seemingly trying to explain or sort of soften his remarks, because we're at a moment now where he just told the Vice President of the United States to go to hell. Like that is the rhetoric that the Republican ticket is now engaging in.
Yeah, and I think, look, there's legitimate criticisms to make about how the Afghanistan withdrawal was handled. Obviously, it was a low point for the Biden-Harris administration. I think it facilitated the polling drop from which Biden himself never recovered, which goes to show you how the public felt about the whole matter. So, yeah, it's fair criticism, but this type of criticism and the politicization of the Arlington National Cemetery really does kind of trip up the Trump campaign operation from making that criticism. It's not so much, I mean, of course, is the idea that you would kind of try to politically profit off of this moment by bringing a camera crew and filming in the sacred ground. But I think there's a larger context here, too, which is that there should be, or should feel like there are places that are immune or exempt from politics, right? But politics has seeped into every facet of our life. Churches, schools, everything. And now when you see the Arlington National Cemetery in Section 60 become a staging ground for partisan bickering because of Donald Trump, not because of anyone else, it goes to the larger piece that I think Harris is getting at, which is that we just want to move on from this. We don't want to spend time wondering whether it's correct protocol to bring cameras for political profiteering into Arlington National Cemetery. We don't want to think about whether those gravestones are used as props in political campaigns. But they have done this, and then, of course, in true Trumpian fashion. When confronted with it, they not only say Kamala Harris can go to hell, but you see the Trump campaign spokespeople saying that this person who was working at the cemetery was, quote unquote, suffering from mental issues. Why? What is the point of doing that? It just seems kind of a grotesque rejoinder to this whole thing when you could just say, look, maybe it was a misunderstanding, which is what normal people would say. So I think the larger story here matters as much as the specifics of what Vance is saying and what happened at Arlington.
Coming up, former Trump National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster says the former president is an easy target for foreign adversaries. He writes about that in his new book, and he'll tell us more about it after this short break.
And when I got there, they have the sushi like
this is Clem.
They're built like sushi, classy. So
Clem's not a morning person, or a night person, or a people person. But he is an I can solve this in 4 different ways person. And that person is impossible to replace. You need Clem. Clem needs benefits. Work with principals so we can help you help Clem with a retirement and benefits plan that's right for him.
Sure, but I'm confident, you know.
Let our expertise round out yours.
When you're the leader in disaster cleanup and restoration, how do you make like it never even happened happen? Woo! Yeah! By being prepared for anything.
Serve Pro, like it never even happened.
Everywhere but the seat. The seat is leather.
Alan, we get it. You love your bike. We do too.
That's why we're America's #1 motorcycle insurer.
But do you have to wedge it into everything?
What? I don't do that. This reminds me of my bike. The Wolf was about the size of my new motorcycle. Have you seen it, by the way? Happy birthday, Grandma!
Really?
Look how the brushstrokes follow the line on a gas tank.
Hey!
Hey! Brought my +1. Jamie.
Nice to meet you. My name is David. I've been a pharmacist for 44 years. When I have customers come in and ask for something for memory, I recommend Prevagen. #1, because it's effective, does not require a prescription, and I've been taking it quite a while myself, and I know it works, and I love it when the customers come back in and tell me, David, that really works so good for me. Makes my day.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
Meet Avocado's best-selling green mattress. Made with certified organic cotton, wool, and latex, plus pocketed coils to support your body's natural curves for cool and restorative sleep. Featuring a 1-year in-home sleep trial. Complete your bedroom oasis with organic pillows and bedding. Shop today with Avocado Green, proud supporter of 1% for the planet.
Let it rain, Randy! Yeah! That's how you make like it never even happened happen.
Serve Pro.
Nobody wants to put a new roof over their head. It's too expensive. And if they can extend the life of that roof and get 5 more years or 10 more years, it's a no-brainer.
What RoofMax does is it helps people in that they don't have to spend that $15,000, $20,000 on a new roof. They can spend pennies on the dollar.
The RoofMax product was a small percentage of cost of replacing a roof.
This is a great financial decision for us as a community.
At Public Rec, we're on a mission to make comfort look good. It starts with our best-selling pants, the Daymakers. A first-of-its-kind technical pant that's more comfortable than jeans and more stylish than sweats. The secret is in the sizing. With Public Rec, you can choose your waist and length to guarantee a perfect fit. So you can be comfortable and feel confident always. The Daymakers by Public Rec.
To me, Harlem is home. But home is also your body.
Last one, everyone.
I asked myself, why doesn't Pilates exist in Harlem? So I started my own studio. Getting a brick and mortar in New York is not easy. Chase Inc. has supported us from Studio 1 to Studio 3. When you start small, you need some big help, and Chase Inc. was that for me.
Earn up to 5% cash back on business essentials with the Chase Inc. Business Cash Card from Chase for Business. Make more of what's yours.
Former National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster is out with a sobering assessment of his time serving in the Trump White House. offering a staunch condemnation of his former boss. In his new book, which bears the title, At War with Ourselves, My Tour of Duty in the Trump White House, McMaster depicts the current Republican presidential nominee as an insecure personality whose need for flattery and approval made him an easy target of foreign adversaries bent on weakening the United States. McMaster served as Trump's national security advisor for 13 months until he was fired in 2018. And retired Army and Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster joins us now. Thank you for being here, sir. Congrats on the book. Let's start with simply what we said before the break. The Trump campaign has pushed back on this. They said the book should be assigned to the bargain bin of fiction, suggesting that nothing in it there is worth paying attention to. But talk to us about what we can find in this book, your day-to-day experiences in his White House.
Sure. Well, hey, I think it's a missed opportunity for the Trump campaign because, there's a lot positive about President Trump in here, especially about his disruptive nature. And my observation, as having been on the receiving end of a lot of policies and strategies developed in Washington that made no sense to me overseas when I was serving in Kabul and in Baghdad, and Trump disrupted a lot of what needed to be disruptive. But the story in the book is also about how he's so disruptive that he disrupts himself and he becomes the antagonist in his own story. So this is not, this is not a warning about President Trump. This is informing readers about the president's character and personality, how that interacts with the real challenges that we faced, all of which are live issues today, from the competition with China and Russia, Iran's aggression and use of this axis of aggressors in the Middle East and the threat from North Korea. I mean, you can go on, Venezuela, all of the issues that we're confronting today, we confronted in that first year of the Trump administration. And this is mainly a story about how I was trying to help a disruptive president disrupt what needed to be disrupted.
So one of the themes in the book is how Trump's inexperience and hubris and susceptibility to flattery, in your estimation, really weakened U.S. national security or position on the world stage, and no more so than with Vladimir Putin, president of Russia. As you saw it up close, what do you think that was? Can you explain the nature of that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, this is something I really tried hard to explain. In the book, I say, at one point I came home and I said to my wife, hey, I can't figure this out, but here's how I see it. I see that in some ways there's a lot of continuity between George W. Bush and his initial approach to Putin and Barack Obama and his initial approach to Putin. Both of them were very hopeful that, hey, I'm the one who can establish a better relationship. I can convince him that, hey, his future is with the West, it's with Europe, it's not, and maybe ameliorate his behavior and so forth. Trump was under that same delusion. He thought, because he has great confidence in his own ability to, make a big deal with somebody. And what I tell the story in the book about is that, hey, I would tell him, hey, this is the best liar in the world, right? He has aspirations. He has objectives in mind that go far beyond anything in relation to us. And so we can't try to placate Putin. Well, the only thing that Putin respects is strength, And so one of the chapter titles here is Weakness is Provocative. And one of the stories in that chapter is my interaction with President Trump, showing him on a big chart that I put in front of him in the back room of the Oval Office, in the little dining room there. And on the bottom of it were world events, U.S. actions that portrayed a sense of weakness or irresolution. And on the top of it, just following that, was an act of Russian aggression, whether it was denial of service cyber attacks against Estonia in 2007, or the invasion of Georgia in 2008, or the first invasion of Ukraine in 2014. And the point I was making is, Mr. President, don't trade off something for Putin to hope that you can have a better relationship. Act with strength, and that's when he authorized the sale and provision of Javelin weapon systems, to the Ukrainians. So a lot of the book is like my story of, hey, what was it like? What was it like to serve in the Trump White House? And it was really our team's effort to help a disruptive president, disrupt what needed to be disrupted.
It's a pretty stark assessment of some of his foreign policy decisions and from your time in the White House. But let's also think about what's happened since then. You mentioned aid to Ukraine. Well, he was later impeached over aid to Ukraine because he held it back. You have seen his comments about Kim Jong-un. You have seen his continued flattery about Vladimir Putin. You saw January 6th. So putting this all together, it's not just that Donald Trump was president. He's trying to be president again.
Yeah.
Do you really think that America's national security interests would be served by another Donald Trump term?
Well, I think that's for every voter to decide.
But what do you think? You saw it up
what you're
close and
saying,
personal.
Jonathan, what I'm saying is, you know, how do you strike the balance, right, between somebody who does disrupt, you know, some of the policies in Washington, and I think a lot of people would agree that there's a lot of Washington that needs to be disrupted, but also be cognizant of the inconsistency of the president. You mentioned a number of examples. One of the other examples in the book is how I think President Trump put into place for the first time a really reasoned and sustainable approach to Afghanistan, but then abandoned that, right? And entered into negotiations with the Taliban without the Afghan government present. He recreated, I think, a lot of the same problems of the Obama administration in the approach to Afghanistan. So, hey, I think, Jonathan, that's for you and Richard, every individual voter to say, okay, based on what you learned in this book, you know, you make your own decision. I'm not here to, as a washed-up general, you know, to tell people how to vote.
Well, let me ask about one individual voter. You.
Yeah.
You have said you wouldn't serve in a Trump term. Are you going to vote for him?
Well, you know, I'm not going to answer that question, Jonathan. Here's, and I tell the story in the book, right? I took the oath of service at age 17 on the plane at West Point, and I followed George Marshall's example, who had been one of my heroes. I'd read, youth biographies of him and everything, and you know, I think it's really important to have a bold line between the military, even retired military, and partisan politics. Not politics in terms of political competitions and diplomacy and national security affairs, but I just don't want to. I don't think any American needs an old general to tell them how to vote. So. I was somebody, my editor actually, who's a great guy. He said, this book needs to be a warning. I'm like, no, I want this book to inform, not to warn. That's the purpose of the book.
Hey, Chuck, can you tell us about the time where when President Trump felt really strongly about an issue? You said, Mr. President, here's why I don't think you got it quite right. I think you ought to think X, not Y. And he said, good point. I'll change my mind. Do you have examples where he's open to doing that?
Yeah, there are many examples in the book of exactly that. And so I think it's sometimes people took kind of the wrong approach with Donald Trump, right? So I think there are three types of people. Richard, you can confirm or deny this, right? In any administration, there are people who are there to serve the elected president, to recognize, hey, this is the president who got elected. And what my duty is to give that president best analysis, give that president multiple options, and let him or her decide, what the course of action is. There's a second group of people. They're not there to give the president multiple options. They're there to manipulate decisions based on their own agenda, right? And then there's a third group of people who think it's their job to protect the country and maybe the world from the president. The problem with the second and third groups is, hey, nobody elected them. And if in our country sovereignty lies with the people, they're actually undermining the Constitution, right? Because they're unaccountable appointed officials. So I saw it as my job to be, and this is one of the chapter titles in here, the guardian of Trump's independence of judgment. And I think we were effective, for a time. I got used up, I only lasted 13 months there, But, it was effective to give him multiple options. And to start with, hey, Mr. President, I think this is your preferred course of action. But if these are our goals and objectives, and we always would have a discussion first, hey, what is it we're trying to achieve? Maybe we should consider something else. And then he would evolve his thinking over time.
We'll have much more with General McMaster after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Your best defense against erosion and cavities is strong enamel. Nothing beats it. I recommend Pronamel Active Shield because it actively shields the enamel to defend against erosion and cavities. I think that this product is a game changer for my patients.
Try Pronamel mouthwash.
There's a power within each of us. When awakened, it can boost performance, enhance learning, even help you work smarter. And you can unlock it with one simple thing: better sleep. Saatva provides that with our luxury mattresses, handcrafted with premium materials in our American factories. We even deliver to any room in your home for free. Saatva, you deserve the comfort of a great night's sleep.
My hair was thinning all around my hairline.
My dermatologist recommended Nutrafol.
It's 100% drug-free and clinically tested.
My hair is longer, thicker.
Nutrafol is life-changing for me.
Get growing at Nutrafol.com.
You know, if you were cash back and you could earn on everything with just one card, Chase Freedom Unlimited. So if you're off the racking or crab cracking, you're cash backing. Cash back on flapjacks, baby backs, or tacos at the Taco Shack.
Nah, I'm working on my six-pack.
Switch to a King Suite.
Or book a silent retreat.
Silent retreat? Oh, hold up. Yeah, I can't talk right now. I'm at a silent retreat. Cash back on everything you buy with Chase Freedom Unlimited with no annual fee. How do you cash back? Chase, make more of what's yours.
This is the one who keeps it moving. He stocks the right parts and knows just where to find them. Because this is about more than business. The industrial grade products you need. Call, click, or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I need these items printed by Friday.
Certainly.
Are you for imprint certain?
We are for imprint. Certainty matters when you need promo gear for gifting clients, customers, and your team. 4imprint.com has items certain to wow.
4imprint, for certain.
Only from SimpliSafe, 24/7 lifeguard protection. This exclusive technology allows SimpliSafe agents to help stop crime in real time. Stop. Police are on their way. For instant intruder deterrence and faster police response, there's no safe like SimpliSafe.
Listen, I might not be a relationship expert, but I do have some hacks. They say, Lauren, what's the secret to a long, sustained relationship?
It's Blue Chew.
Blue Chews.
Blue Chew?
Blue Chew. Blue Chew.
Blue Chew.
Blue Chew. Blue Chew, baby! Blue Chew is an online subscription-based service that sends these affordable tablets directly to your home. No one even has to know. Except for me. But I'm not gonna tell anyone.
Vice President Kamala Harris is riding a wave of momentum.
It's challenging to understand how he is supposed to appeal to a general election electorate.
There are people that want what Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are selling.
Don't miss the weekend, Saturday and Sunday mornings at 8
on MSNBC.
Groundbreaking reporting.
This is not violence you should become numb to.
Powerful interviews.
Let me ask you about future plans for Hunter Biden.
Outstanding storytelling. MSNBC is honored to be nominated at this year's Emmy Awards.
Welcome back to Morning Joe Weekend. Let's pick back up on the conversation we were just having before the break.
You have an unbelievably distinguished military background. Did you have serious conversations with him about the use of the American military on U.S. soil? Given the, did you ever sit down with him and talk about the Insurrection Act and the costs of potentially using the U.S. military at home?
I didn't. I was gone by that time, right? But Richard, by the time of all the George Floyd's murder, the violent aftermath of that, all of that. So I did make a few phone calls, and I think at times, like everything else, right? The title's at war with ourselves because we are at war with ourselves. Okay. And one of the themes is, hey, that's not only bad for our psyche, right? It's bad for governance. And it's bad for our confidence in who we are as a people and confidence, as you were talking in the earlier segment, in our democratic institutions and processes. So I think what I hope the book does is help us realize, hey, we all have a stake in arresting these centripetal forces that are just tearing us apart from each other. I tell a lot of stories in here about, how Trump, says things that are inflammatory, says things that are disrespectful, offensive. But oftentimes, the response to what Donald Trump says or does is as bad or worse than him. And so, hey, let's stop this vortex of vitriol, and get to what we can agree on, which is a lot. And so I did make a few calls in that period of time and said, hey, this is, I think, what the president should say. Of course, I don't know if it got to him or not. Certainly he didn't say those things that I think could have brought Americans together around more of a consensus. Hey, would it be right to activate the military to stop people from burning down people's businesses in Portland or Seattle? Yes, yeah, that would make sense. But the way it was portrayed, was just even more divisive,
Well, Trump certainly chose the path of divisiveness repeatedly, Caddy. And one of the defining relationships, there's Putin, of course, but another defining foreign policy relationship for Donald Trump, which is discussed at length in this book, is with Xi Jinping of China.
Yeah, and of course it's his relationship with China and the pivoting of that relationship that UHR say is one of the better things that Donald Trump does. And you write about a meeting between then President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping, quote, "As Trump began to speak, I experienced a wave of apprehension that caused a sinking feeling in my stomach. The president agreed with Xi that military exercises with South Korea were provocative and went on to describe them as a waste of money. Even worse, he seemed to agree with Xi's suggestion of a return of freeze for freeze. Trump did not refer to the talking points I had given him on the top issues of Taiwan, the South China Sea and the Senkakus. His response to Xi's complaints about all three gave the impression of U.S. ambivalence over countering People's Liberation Army aggression across the region. Just when I thought it could get no worse, Trump offered to mediate on the Senkakus, implying that China had a legitimate claim to be adjudicated. I passed White House Chief of Staff John Kelly a folded note. Xi ate our lunch. Trump walked into the trap." It's a great scene, and there are many great scenes in the book, HR. When you look at a possible second Trump administration, what have we learned from the first one, and who do you think there could be that could play the kind of, harnessing of the disruptive nature of the president that you tried to play in the first administration?
Well, Katty, it does matter, who's around the president, and we hope the president would appoint good people. I think there are a lot of good people waiting. Do you think he will? I think in confirmable positions, yes. I mean, I know that there are some good people waiting to come to help any president. One of the themes in the book, Katty, is like, hey, listen, I mean, I served the Trump administration, and this is not a woe is me book. I mean, I was grateful for the opportunity to help the elected president. This was my sixth commander-in-chief that I'd served under as a military officer. So I hope that good Americans who can make a difference in any administration volunteer to serve, whether it's in uniform, as a diplomat, as an intelligence official. We need the best young Americans to serve our nation at this critical moment, which Richard has written about in the recent Foreign Affairs. It's a really critical moment in history for us. And so I hope that's the theme, Katty. And, of course, the Donald Trump portray in that meeting with Xi Jinping, that's probably not going to surprise a lot of Americans, right? I mean, he does, say what's without filter a lot of times. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's arresting. Sometimes that is damaging. It just depends on, on what's on his mind at the time. But I hope that the main, the main thrust of the book and kind of the tenor of the book is that, hey, it was a privilege to serve. This is a complicated picture like it is within any administration, and I hope Americans learn what it was like. I mean, I think it's in many cases like that story and others. I mean, there are stories that I think are insightful in terms of the president's character, personality, and how he interacted with the challenges that we're still facing today.
Up next, we'll talk to Academy Award-winning director Alex Gibney about his new HBO documentary on the iconic show The Sopranos. Morning Joe Weekend. We'll be right back with that.
The best things in life come in twos. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 thumbs up. And now, buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, 2 months free. All with fast, reliable, nationwide coverage. Make the switch today.
At the Alzheimer's Association Walk to End Alzheimer's, this is why we walk. They're why we walk. We walk in the Alzheimer's Association Walk to End Alzheimer's because we're getting closer to beating this disease. Join us!
Here's to getting better with age.
Here's to beating these two every Thursday.
Help fuel today with Boost High Protein. Complete nutrition you need and the flavor you love. So here's to now. Now available Boost Max.
Whatever life throws your way, just click through your day.
Diabetes can serve up a lot of questions. Like, what is your glucose and can you have more carbs? Before you decide. With the Freestyle Libre 3 system, know your glucose and where it's heading. No finger sticks needed. Now the world's smallest and thinnest sensor sends your glucose levels directly to your smartphone. Manage your diabetes with more confidence and lower your A1C, the #1 CGM prescribed in the U.S. Try it for free at freestylelibre.us.
We all know what it's like to worry, to not know where our dog is gone. Say goodbye to that with Tractive. Follow every step and find your dog in no time. Set virtual fences, monitor their activity, sleep, and get health alerts all in one easy-to-use app with unlimited range and support in over 150 countries. Tractive, the GPS tracker trusted by pet parents worldwide. Save 30% for a limited time.
Have you ever considered getting a walk-in tub? Well, look no further. Safe Step's best offer just got better. Now, when you purchase your brand new Safe Step walk-in tub, you'll receive a free shower package. Yes, a free shower package. And if you call today, you'll also receive 15% off your entire order. Now you can enjoy the best of both worlds. The therapeutic benefits of a warm, soothing bath that can help increase mobility, relieve pain, boost energy, and even improve sleep. Or, if you prefer, you can take a refreshing shower all in one product. Call now to receive a free shower package plus 15% off your brand new Safe Step walk-in tub.
Call now, 1-800-625-9158.
Many probiotics don't survive digestion. That means whatever you're taking for your gut probably isn't getting where it needs to go. Seed's DSO1 Daily Synbiotic is the 2-in-1 prebiotic and probiotic engineered to survive, bringing live bacteria all the way down to the colon, or to healthy digestive, skin, heart, and immune system. Get started today with Seed's DSO1 Daily Synbiotic. Visit seed.com to order now.
More than ever, you need clarity. More than ever, trust is everything. More than ever, democracy needs an ally. Facts must win the day. And questions need to be answered. Because more than ever, the work we do will reverberate for generations.
For years, everybody told me you should write a show about your mother and yourself. She was so out there.
Stop telling me how to live my life. You just shut up.
And I thought, who's going to watch that?
You're making me out to be some mama's boy.
Then I realized maybe if he was like a really badass guy.
So what happened with you and The Sopranos? It was like HBO said, go for it, man.
Well, nobody else wanted it.
David was a TV veteran, but hadn't really directed.
I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew it was going to be about money and death.
Could you have a killer as your lead?
Is there a place for that on television?
So that's a look at a new 2-part HBO original documentary about what many critics have described as simply the best television show of all time. In Wise Guy, David Chase and The Sopranos, Academy Award-winning director Alex Gibney sits down with the show's creator to reflect on the series' unlikely success and its enduring legacy, 25 years after it premiered. The documentary debuts September 7th on HBO and Max, and Alex Gibney joins us now. Alex, thank you so much for being here this morning. It is sort of hard to believe. As noted, this show is considered by many to be perhaps the greatest of all time, or on that very, very, very short list. Yep. But yet, it almost didn't happen at all. We just heard David Chase suggest that no one else wanted it. Tell us a little bit about the unlikeliness that it even happened at all.
Well, David had an interesting career. He started out, I mean, he had worked on some porno films. He had worked on a lot of TV shows. He had done anything he could to get in the business, and he was sort of a veteran TV guy. He always wanted to make movies. And then he had this script, which was about his mother, really. And he took it around to everybody, and they all turned him down. As one, Les Moonves, famous broadcast executive, said, "We really like this mob thing, but are you wedded to the therapy?" i.e. the motor of the show. So he said, "Yeah, I guess you could say I'm wedded to the therapy." And then he brought it over to HBO. HBO was steering against the algorithms of the day. They wanted to do something different. And in walks this guy with this extraordinary film, and they decided, let's just invest in him. And they did.
So what drew you to this? Were you a fan of the show at the time? What made this a compelling topic for you?
I mean, I was a huge fan of the show. I loved it. HBO asked me to do something about it, and initially I was reluctant because I just didn't, I didn't feel the need to do a promo show. But when I went and had lunch with David in LA, I just found him to be a fascinating character, and the whole story of the origin story of The Sopranos was really interesting to me. So both getting into how the show was made and also its relevance.
When I'm on camera. That's why my go-to is Nurtec ODT for the acute treatment of migraine with or without aura and the preventive treatment of episodic migraine in adults. It's the only migraine medication that helps treat and prevent all in one.
Don't take if allergic to Nurtec ODT. Allergic reactions can occur even days after using. Most common side effects were nausea, indigestion, and stomach pain.
People depend on me. Without a migraine, I can be there for them. Talk to your doctor about Nurtec ODT today.
Chase really knows how to put the heart in your local community. See what I did there? Hey, Jackie. Evan, my guy. You helping them with savings, right? I wish I had somebody like Evan when I started. Somebody just got their first debit card. Ice cream on you? Ooh, tacos. I got you. Wait, hold on. Don't you owe me money? What? Your money is a part of your community, so your bank should be too, like Chase.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading?
Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud.
Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers.
Visit legacybox.com today and get 50% off.
Looking for a way to stretch the dollar? With Insurify, you can cut your car insurance bill in half. Scroll through dozens of prices and tap to switch online. That's it. No phone calls and no wasted time. Go to Insurify and save today.
You owe me 10 grand. Who's this fella calling the shots?
Someone was dead. You can sort it.
No.
All right, man. I'm about to put you onto something incredible.
It's Blue Chew.
Blue Chew.
Blue Chew?
Blue Chew. Blue Chew. Blue Chew. Blue Chew.
And it helps men achieve stronger and longer lasting erections, which is pretty helpful. And it's an online service that delivers directly to your door, plus the first month is completely free. So why not try it? And yeah, chew it and do it. It's Blue Chew.
I could work out, I could dance, I could do anything in this bra. Honey Love bras are the most comfortable bras I've ever worn. No underwire. There is some boning on the sides, which make it super comfortable and supportive. No back fat, never. It's fun, it's beautiful, it's supportive.
Free 30-day returns. Shop now at honeylove.com.
DealDash.com. Online auctions since 2009. This PlayStation 5 sold for only 50 cents. This iPad Pro sold for less than $34. And this Nintendo Switch sold for less than $20. Go to DealDash.com and see how much you can save.
Why do couples choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
I sleep great now that my side's as firm as my heart desires.
My heart desires soft.
Sleep Number does that. Your ideal firmness and effortless comfort all night. During our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed and free delivery when you add any base.
The best feeling is when we take off our bras. It's not true. Honey Love bras are the most comfortable bras I've ever worn. No underwire. There is some boning on the sides, which make it super comfortable and supportive. No back fat, never. It's fun, it's beautiful, it's supportive.
Free 30-day returns. Shop now at honeylove.com.
Hello and welcome back to Morning Joe on this Labor Day weekend. Let's jump back into some of the big stories we've been talking about this past week.
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families. For example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one. I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. We